All right, good evening, everyone. Okay, so tonight we are looking at the helmet of salvation as our topic. So you guys have been doing the spiritual warrior, and I reckon this is about session number 6. I think that's about right. So what we're going to do, anyone know why we chose this chapter as our reading tonight? Why would we have chosen this chapter as our reading? If you don't answer me, I'm just going to pick on someone like you. Why do we choose this chapter as our reading tonight? There's a helmet in there. Fantastic. That's a great start. Okay. So, tell me, Samuel, why? What was that helmet made out of? Bronze. Excellent. How many helmets were in that chapter? We didn't read the whole chapter. How many helmets were in that chapter? Two. Excellent. So, who had the first helmet? Saul. What was his helmet made out of? Brass. So yes, Saul had a helmet of brass. And no, not Saul. Who said that? What verse were we talking about? There was two helmets in the chapter. Who had the first helmet? Goliath. Somebody said Goliath. Who was that? Down there, Goliath. Yeah, what was his helmet made out of? Brass. Well, I don't think we need this microphone. Alright, we'll just leave that one there. Okay, so we had a helmet of brass that Goliath has, and Saul also has a helmet of brass. Alright, so what do you reckon that lesson is? Did David choose to go with that helmet on his head? So what do you reckon that if Goliath's got a helmet of brass and Saul's got a helmet of brass, what do you reckon the spiritual lesson is there? And David takes that helmet off his head. What do you think the spiritual lesson is in that?
You must reject the carnal mind.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. Yes, that would also be true. Yes. Not what I'm thinking. None of those answers are what I'm thinking, but maybe what I'm thinking is just limited. Yes?
It's not important if you've got God on your side.
Yeah, that's all true. So this guy's got a helmet of brass, and this guy wants to wear a helmet, was going to wear a helmet of brass, he took it off. And if a helmet of brass represents fleshly thinking, you can't fight flesh with flesh. You have to fight flesh with spirit, because yes, the battle is God's. Okay? That's the spiritual lesson behind it. You can't fight flesh with flesh. You have to take the spiritual warrior's armor, because it is fit for purpose. Okay, so that is the armor that God's given you. So I actually want you guys to tell me so we're gonna, so you deliberately sitting at tables like this. I don't know whether you normally sit like this, but I'm actually gonna divide you up, like maybe say that one group there, and then maybe 2 over here, 2 over here, 2 over there. Okay, now, and you're gonna discuss among yourselves, and I'm gonna give you 1 minute to come up with the take-home lessons from your previous classes. So, I think you started off from memory looking at the program with the whole armour of God, and then you might have had one on who we face, yes, and then after that was truth, and after that was righteousness, and after that was the preparation of the gospel, and then after that was faith. I think Uncle Tim Batch did that one. And now we're on to the helmet. So I want take-home lessons. Okay, so discuss among yourselves, because I'm going to pick on someone. Or you can nominate a speaker. I don't mind. Okay? from the whole armor. A take-home lesson from the whole armor. Did anyone have something? Right. Okay, so it's a spiritual covering given to you by God. Yeah? Any advances on that? Take-home lesson from that talk? I know it was at the beginning of the year.
You've got to have a whole armor, because if you're missing a piece of it, you've got to
Yep.
spot.
Okay. Yes.
He also mentioned that Christ wore the whole armor.
Yes.
It's not just following the warriors, but following the example of Christ as well.
Okay, good. Okay, excellent. Any advances on that?
Through baptism.
You put it on through baptism. Excellent. Yep. Do you know when I was thinking about it? I did sort of say this before, I alluded to it. Armor has to be fit for purpose. You know, in Luke, I think it's Luke 11, it's the parable of the strong man. You know, when there's a strong man and he's got stuff in his house that he wants to protect, and a stronger than he comes and takes away and steals his stuff from him. Okay? And it says that his armor that he was trusting in was no good. Okay? So if your armor is not fit for purpose, it's no good. That to me would be a take-home lesson. Now, maybe that wasn't mentioned, I don't know, but that was just where my mind went. Okay? So I paraglide. Judah paraglides with me. Okay? You've got to have a helmet. Okay? And you've got a glider. And you've got a harness. You've got a reserve. Okay? In case things go wrong. Now, if my helmet or my reserve doesn't work, I've got to trust my equipment. When you're a couple of kilometers up in the air, if you don't trust your equipment, you've got a big problem. Okay? Because it's really scary. Someone comes to break in your house. Oh, we don't. Okay, maybe I shouldn't say that. Because we ought to be passive and we're not supposed to resist. But maybe if someone broke into my house, I wouldn't be quite so. I don't know. Anyway, let's not go there. Okay? So, this guy who had a house and someone comes to steal from him, okay, if his armor's not fit for purpose, somebody comes and takes his stuff. You've got to trust your equipment. So I'm going to write that up here, okay? So who gives you your armor?
God.
Okay, so it must be fit for purpose. Okay. So, if God's given you the armor, is it fit for purpose?
Yeah.
Absolutely. What's the whole purpose at the end of the day? This is like a big opening question, I know.
Develop character.
Develop character, and therefore the purpose of developing character is to be in the kingdom. Yeah? So the armor is fit for purpose to overcome sin, to develop character, that you're going to be part of God's kingdom. Okay, so whatever you have got in the spiritual armor, it will work if you follow it. So great thing to be studying. Okay, you guys, who are we fighting? What was your take-home lesson? Man, that's a bit of a tricky one, isn't it? Like, who are we fighting, but what's the take-home lesson? Yeah, I suppose. What did we have? What did you learn?
Fighting ourselves.
Fighting ourselves, sin. Yeah. Okay, I'm going to write that up. Okay, so we're fighting sin. Yeah. I'm going to write human nature. Who else? Were there any advances on that? What did you learn in that class about who we're fighting? Okay, so who is that? Hey, if you guys don't know who you're fighting, like, what did you learn, you fellas? What did you learn from your second class? Who are you fighting?
Sin.
Yeah, we got sin already. Who are we fighting?
Our own lusts and temptations.
We got human nature already. Who are we fighting?
Kingdom of man.
Kingdom of men. Yes, I like that. Let's be more specific.
Worldly influences.
Worldly influences. Yes. Yeah, okay. You want to be more specific than that?
Ourselves.
Yeah, ourselves. So human nature. Yep. So I'm going to write worldly what is worldly influences? We need more than worldly influences. Come on, guys.
Whatever would take us away from God.
Yes, that's true. Okay. So what did you hey, fellas, Ephesians 6. Right, let's go there. Okay? Ephesians 6 verse 12. Okay, so Ephesians 6 verse 12 says, "For we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities and powers, and against the rulers of darkness of this world, against spiritual wickedness in high places." The Diaglot says, "Our conflict is not with blood and flesh, but with," anyone know? "Governments and potentates of this darkness and spiritual things of wickedness in the heavenlies." Okay, so we've got governments. And spiritual wickedness in high places. So this is religious ideology. I think I've spelt that wrong. Okay, ideology, there we go. So we are fighting against spiritual and worldly ideologies. That's what we fight against. This is not a flesh, this is not a natural, we don't get out a sword or a gun or a knife or, a club or something like that. We're fighting against religious ideology and human ideologies. Can you tell me where you are influenced by human ideologies? This is very, this is not just a recap of the class because I'm trying to waste time. Okay? Because this is absolutely, what did we start off by saying? You can't fight flesh with flesh. And if you have got fleshly ideologies that you're going to be fighting against, you're going to fight it with what? Spiritual ideologies. Thank you. Okay. So this is our helmet of salvation. Alright? Because it's ideologies. That's here. Alright? Right. So, where do fleshly ideologies come to you? I want you to talk about that. Because I want you to think. So I want you to talk, and I want you to tell me where human, fleshly ideologies come to you from. Go. You 1 minute. Good. Social interaction in public. Very good. Where from?
Riches.
From where?
Riches. Money.
Riches, from money. Yes, okay. Yeah, if you've got it, yeah.
Or like get or try.
Or trying to get it, yeah, okay. Yeah, it could be I would say the thinking behind that, the wanting it, and where would the wanting it to be coming from? What would prompt the wanting it? What's your favourite card? You like cards? You don't like cards. What do you like? Food. Okay. Food. You're a skinny bloke. You need to eat more. Okay. So you like food. So what tempts you to food? Where do you get it from? Where does it come to you from? I drove past Carl's Jr. on Grand Junction Road up here. Do you know a jalapeno burger from there is so good? Okay. So where does it come to you from? Where does the temptation like? Anyone else know what I'm looking for? No, well, yeah, no, your stomach prompts you, yeah, but okay, so. Advertising, thank you. Okay, so it comes to you from advertising. So when you drive past Carl's Jr. and you see the big sign there, go, yeah, come in, flashing, yeah? And you love food, you want to go in there. So it's coming to you from the advertising. Now you might like food, okay, but there's a whole lot of other stuff out there. So we're talking about these worldly ideologies, where do they come to you from? So they come to you from advertising. They come to you from social interactions with people. Where else does it come from? Yes.
It comes from the heart.
Comes from the heart because it's innate within you, yeah, okay.
Jeremiah 17 verse 9. The heart is Jeremiah 17 verse 9. The heart is deceitful above all things and desperately wicked. Who can know it?
Excellent. Okay, any advances on that? Where else does it come from?
Education, like university, schooling.
Excellent. Really good. Where else? Online. Fantastic. So what do we get online? So let's broaden online to the internet. Because it comes through all forms of what? What did I hear? Social media. Thank you. Social media. Comes through all forms of social media. So, and this is, young people, like, this is really, really important to understand. Okay? So we're talking about governments. Do we fight against the government? Do we? No, we don't fight against the government. But the government has an ideology, doesn't it? So Trump's government, what kind of ideology is it? Left wing, right wing? Right wing. Okay? The Gillard, the Gillard's a lot like. Never mind about Australian politics. The other side's left wing. Okay? I'm showing my age. Are you that way? You're laughing at me? Okay, never mind. All right, so you get left wing and right wing ideology, okay? And so Trump will say things like Harvard University is a nest of left wing ideology because he's right wing. And what is in the nest of left wing ideology at Harvard? Well, it's all the Black Lives Matter and the LGBTQ and all the rest of the alphabet and the what was the other one? And the Palestinian cause and all of these things. Okay, and so in the university there, it's this nest of left wing ideology. So you go to that university and you see young people. What we're trying to say is you soak it in. So we don't actively go out and try and be encouraged by the ideologies of the world, but we exist in the world. And it's there in the advertising, it's there in the social media, it's there at university, it's there in the news. And every news outlet that you listen to, now I don't know if you, okay, so maybe you guys, maybe you get your news from TikTok, I don't know. Hopefully not. But if you watch the news, okay, every news, you're taught to think critically at school, aren't you? Yeah? So if you taught to think critically at school, you taught to look at the source and what the ideology behind the source is, because they will be pushing their agenda. Everybody's trying to push an agenda. You see, the governments are trying to push an agenda. Religious ideologies, religions are trying to push an agenda. They're all trying to push an agenda. And it all stems, yes, from human nature. But that is what we're fighting against. And you need to have armor fit for purpose. Okay? So, and the helmet of salvation is absolutely critical to fighting. So we're fighting the spiritual conflict against the spirit of this world, which comes through all the ideologies of the world, okay, that come to us through social media and various other things. Right. Now, I think we're actually running, we're running quite late, I think. Can I have a very, actually I'm going to skip doing that. So, when you look at these things, so you looked at truth, so looking at just what they are. So you had, what was it, something of truth. Loins girt with truth, okay? So I don't think it's, yeah, okay, so loins girt, so we had truth. Then the next thing was? Breastplate of righteousness. Then feet shod with the gospel, preparation of the gospel. And then shield of faith. I don't know if you guys have noticed this. Can anyone tell me? Do you reckon there's a sequence there? And if so, what would that be?
It's the whole Bible story.
Could be the Bible story. I think it's actually an individual story. So what's the first thing that happens to you? You learn the truth, isn't it? What do you do once you've learned the truth? What do you do once you learn the truth? You get baptized and you put on Christ's, and you're given His righteousness. You imputed righteous. So you learn the truth, and then you imputed righteous when you're baptized. And then what do? You're excited about it, aren't you? So what do? You go and preach. Okay, you go and preach and you tell other people about it. And what happens when you tell other people in the workplace or school, or not necessarily school, but if you're at Heritage, that is. But if you're out at work or somewhere else, you tell your neighbour, what happens when you start preaching to them? Hey? They laugh at you. And so what are you going to have? Faith. Okay, because you come into conflict. And so you've got to have a shield of faith. Okay, because if you come into, because as soon as you start preaching, they laugh, they don't want to believe it, they say, oh, you're an idiot, you believe in, you believe in creation, like that's a stupid thing to believe in. Science, and so you come into conflict, and so you've got to have a shield of faith. Okay? And then, after you develop, your faith grows, and then develops after that what? It's a little bit more tricky. It's a mindset of salvation, okay? It's a mindset of salvation. I'm going to show you that. All right. So I think this is actually really simple. The truth is not complicated. We were just reading this morning about, when I was doing the readings with the girls, this morning we read 2 Peter 1, and we're talking about how simple the truth is. Whereby are given unto this exceeding great and precious promises. Okay, that we might be partakers of the divine nature. Okay, that's that verse, one of my favourite verses of the Bible. You've got given exceeding great and precious promises, and that makes you partakers of the divine nature. It's so simple. The truth is so simple. Okay, promises to Eve, promises to Abraham, promises to David, promises to Mary, and that, when you believe that, there's divine nature at the end of it for you. Okay? And it's so simple. You learn the truth. You baptize. You preach. You endure by faith. You come into conflict. and then you develop this relationship with God because you're absolutely convinced of salvation. And that's what you're going to see tonight. It's a way of thinking. Okay? It's a mindset of salvation. You are in the kingdom. Not literally right now, but you're as good as in the kingdom. That's what I'm going to show you. Okay, so let's have, I just want to take you to another quote. So I think it's even on Gibbo's thing here. That was quite good, by the way. I just had a quick read of it. Yes, 1 Thessalonians 5 verse 8. Right, come. It's the first one on there. This little thing that was handed out. All right? I want you to see. 1 Thessalonians 5 verse 8. I want you to understand now we're specifically talking about the helmet of salvation. Okay? What is this helmet of salvation? What does the helmet protect? Good. Helmet protects your head. Okay, so now are we talking literally here? So in spiritual terms, what does your helmet protect? What do you think the head represents? Your thinking. Yeah, good. Okay, so your helmet protects your thinking. So actually, it governs your thinking. It's not protecting your thinking so much as it governs your thinking. It helps you to think in the right way, which is the same thing as protecting your thinking, okay? All right, so 1 Thessalonians chapter 5, verse 8. Let's read that. Okay, so it says here, but let us who are of the day be sober, putting on the breastplate of faith and love, and for an helmet, the hope of salvation. And now, he does something different. Look at the next verse. He goes on to actually tell you more about it. Look what he says. For God has not appointed us to wrath, but to obtain salvation by our Lord Jesus Christ. So, somebody brave, tell me, what is that verse telling you about God's motivation? Exactly. He wants us to have. God has appointed you to salvation. He has not appointed you to destruction. You are going to be in the kingdom. Do not doubt it. Allow that to govern your thoughts. Allow that to govern your mind. That is your helmet. You have been appointed to salvation. God is willing you into the kingdom. Okay, he has done everything. This is armor fit for purpose. He's done everything to get you into the kingdom. Okay, so let's just confirm that. This is not just an isolated quote. Turn over to 2 Thessalonians. Let's have another a look at this one. So 2 Thessalonians 2 verse 13. Okay, so 2 Thessalonians 2 verse 13 says, but we are bound to give thanks always to God for you, brethren, beloved of the Lord, because God has from the beginning chosen you to salvation through sanctification of the Spirit and belief in the truth. Okay, so he's chosen you to salvation. From when? From the very beginning. He's appointed you to salvation. He's chosen you to salvation. You are going to be in the kingdom. He's done everything that he could. Everything that's necessary. Does that make sense? And that should govern your thinking. That is like armor. Strong armor. Fit for purpose. Something you can trust in. Okay? It's not going to let you down. It's not going to fail you. It is going to accomplish its purpose, defeat the enemy. It will protect you against the ideologies of the world. Does that make sense? Knowing that you are going to be in the kingdom. Never doubting it. It's an amazing mindset. So we talk about a helmet of salvation is a mindset that you know you're going to be in the kingdom. And then you don't sin. I'll show you that later. All right. Okay. So, thinking about this mindset of salvation now, okay? Let's go back and let's have just a look at this at the story of salvation, how God has worked out salvation, and what He tells us, what He teaches us about salvation right from the beginning. Okay, so Genesis 3:15. Let's go back to Genesis 3:15. Let's just flick through in our Bible a few of the pictures and the stories, as it were, of where God teaches us about salvation. Okay, and we're going to see something, I think, really powerful. Okay, so Genesis 3:15, what's that all about? Seed of the woman and the serpent, and it's the first what in the Bible? The first what? Promise. Yeah, yes, first promise, and also the first prophecy. Yeah, first prophecy in the Bible. Okay, so Genesis 3:15, I will put enmity between you and the woman, between your seed and her seed. It will bruise your head, and you will bruise his heel. It's the first prophecy. And what's it a prophecy of? Should be a really easy answer to this because we're talking about the helmet of salvation. So what's it a first prophecy of? Well done. Good. Okay, fantastic. It's the first prophecy of salvation. Okay. So here the problem is that Adam and Eve have just sinned and they're going to now die. They know they're going to die because their bodies have changed. They've realized their sin and their shame. And God says, you know what? I've got this. I've got this. Where's the salvation coming from? From God. Who said that? Yep, from God. Well done. The salvation is coming from God. We're going to see this as we go through. Right, let's go. Let's build on the story about salvation. Because it's not immediately obvious that it's from God there. But you're right. But it's not immediately obvious. But God is saying, I've got this. Okay? Right, so Genesis 6 verse 14. A few pages over. So, now, verse 14 is not very explicit, but we're going to get the story. So Genesis 6, all about Noah. Verse 14, make thee an ark of gopher wood. Okay, so Noah is told to make an ark. What's actually happening here in that verse?
Salvation.
Thank you. Well done. Salvation. So what's the problem? Man has sinned, degenerated. God says, I'm going to wipe the whole lot out. But Noah, don't you worry. I've got this. You just build an ark. You do your little bit. You just do your little bit, Noah. And I'll do the rest. I'll do the big work. You just do your little bit. I'll bring the flood. I'll flood the whole world. I'll float you up on top and I'll save you. So salvation is always a work of God. Okay? Noah, you just do your little bit and I've got the rest. Don't you worry about it. Okay? Let's go have a look at it. Okay, so Deuteronomy 33 verse 29. Okay, so Deuteronomy 33 verse 29. Again, this is not immediately obvious, but we're talking about Israel. Okay, so this says, Deuteronomy 33 verse 29, happy art thou, O Israel, who is like unto thee, O people saved by Yahweh, the shield of thy help, and who is the sword of thy excellency. Oh, we're getting echoes here, aren't we? Of a spiritual warrior with a shield and a sword. Who's the warrior in this case? God. Okay, so here you've got a nation. You've got a nation that are slaves. They've been slaves for 400 years approximately, okay? Humanly, how possible for them to extradite themselves out of that situation? How possible? Percentage? 0. Okay? Even if they rose up en masse and tried to overcome the Egyptians or get out, where are they going to go? There was nowhere for them to go. It's desert, and okay? God had to give them the land. So it was almost humanly, well, in fact it was humanly impossible for them to get themselves out of that situation. Okay? Salvation is not something that you can do. You can't work your own salvation. God is the one who works the salvation. So this here is a people, look what it says, a people saved by Yahweh. So God took them out. And He took them to the Red Sea, didn't He? And He put the Red Sea in front of them. He put the Egyptian army behind them. And they were about to get completely either drowned or cut up. And what does Moses say? You should know this. Stand still. You just did that at a conference, didn't you, or something? Yeah? Stand still and see the what? Salvation of who? God. Don't worry, Moses. Don't worry, Israel. I've got this. Okay? You just do your little bit. Stand still. Okay? That's all you've got to do. Just stand still. I've got this. Salvation is always a work of God. Okay? All right, let's carry on. Let's have a look at another one. 1 Samuel 14. So we can build a few more little nuances into this little picture of salvation. 1 Samuel 14 verse 6. Anyone tell me what that story is about? Okay, Jonathan and his armor bearer. Okay, so 1 Samuel 14 verse 6, and Jonathan said unto the young man that bare his armor, Come, let us go over to the garrison of these uncircumcised, that it may be that Yahweh will work for us. For there is no restraint to Yahweh to save by many or by few. Okay? Do you see that, young people? Where's the salvation coming from? I know it's a really simple answer, isn't it? Everyone's too embarrassed to shout it out. You should all be shouting it out. God! Okay? The salvation's coming from God. God doesn't require Jonathan and his armor bearer. You just do your little bit. You just do your little bit, have faith, and go, hey, you Philistines, here we are. And God does the rest. Okay? Wipes out the whole garrison. Started fighting amongst themselves, etc. Okay? So salvation is always of God. But you know, sometimes you see this. Sometimes God actually uses our faith and our belief in Him, and He uses us to do certain things. We do the little bit, and God comes in and brings up the rest. Okay? So, and God does this to develop our character and to see our faith, and He works with us like this. It's not a conundrum, but it's sometimes God says, now just stand still. Okay? And other times He says, I actually want you to build an ark. So you've actually got to do something. But at the end of the day, the salvation comes from God in either case. All right. Okay, so there we go. I love this one. 2 Chronicles 20. Anyone tell me about 2 Chronicles 20? Because it is a massive echo. You'll see it. You can't miss it. So, the context of 2 Chronicles 20 is Jehoshaphat, one of the faithful kings of Judah, okay? And he's got this massive army that's coming against him, and he's got no hope of winning, okay? It's humanly impossible for him to win, okay? And a prophet comes to him and says in verse 15, and he said, so this is the prophet speaking to Jehoshaphat, and he said, Hearken ye, all Judah and ye inhabitants of Jerusalem, and thou, King Jehoshaphat, thus saith Yahweh unto you, be not afraid, nor dismayed by reason of this great multitude, for the battle is not yours, but God's. Okay? Verse 17. And ye shall not need to fight in this battle. Set yourselves, stand ye still, and see the salvation of Yahweh. Oh, that prophet's just echoing Moses, isn't he? All right? Stand still and see this. There's no hope of you winning this on your own account. You'll be wiped out. But don't worry. You've got armor fit for purpose. You can't fight flesh with flesh. You have to take spiritual armor to fight worldly ideologies. Do you understand? Stand still and see the salvation of Yahweh, because God has got this. You arm yourself with the spiritual thinking, a spiritual understanding of salvation, along with all the other things. And you're in the kingdom. Okay? God's got this. All right. So, this actually, when you actually understand this, when you understand salvation, when you understand that God has not appointed you to wrath, He has appointed you to salvation. Not only has He appointed you to salvation, but He's chosen you personally, and He's chosen you right from the very beginning. When you understand that, it actually can affect, and it should affect your mind. It does affect your mind. It must affect your mind. Okay? But it affects your mind in a way where you can now relax. Just come with me to Psalm 27, verse 1. Look at this. Because this is a man who really understood this. He really, really understood. And this can help. It just changes your mindset. Okay? Often we talk about depression and anxiety and things like that. We'll look at this. Yahweh, Psalm 27, verse 1. Psalm 27 is my favorite psalm. Yahweh is my light and my salvation. Don't worry, David. I've got this. And David absolutely understood that. Okay? Yahweh is my light and my salvation. Whom shall I fear? Yahweh is the strength of my life. Of whom shall I be afraid? He does not need to be tormented with anxiety or depression. His knowledge and his experience of salvation brings a calm and a reassurance to all the issues of his life. Okay? Because he knows that they are controlled by God. And that he's going to be saved from them. And ultimately he's going to be in the kingdom because he's chosen. He's appointed. Okay? So can you see, young people, how understanding salvation, understanding that God's got it. He's done it. He's worked it out. He's appointed you. He's chosen you. Understanding that can give you a calm and a reassurance. I can go about life. I can go forward knowing that I'm in the kingdom. I'm as good as in the kingdom. It's not a matter of if. It's only a matter of when. Does that make sense? Yeah? Okay. So, this should... Now, can I just tell you something? I'm going to draw a little man here. Seeing we didn't fill that up. So we're going to draw a little man here. And do you know what? Can somebody turn up? Oh, no, I'm just going to tell you because we're running out of time. Okay, so in Psalm 18, it talks about a shield of salvation. Okay, so we've got a shield over here of salvation. All right? There's our man. That's you. You've got a shield of salvation in Psalm 18. Isaiah 59 says you've got a helmet of salvation. Okay, there we go. You've got a helmet of salvation as well. In Isaiah 61, it says you've got garments of salvation. Garments of salvation. All right? Isaiah 60, verse 18 says you've got walls of salvation. How much salvation have you got? You've got a shield, you've got a helmet, you're wrapped up in garments, and as if that's not enough, you're stuck in a whole city. You have absolutely 100% salvation. God's got it. Don't you worry. You just stand still. Okay? That's what you've got to, that is how you have to think. You have to know that you are appointed to salvation. He's not appointed you to wrath. It's not a matter of if, it's only a matter of when. Okay? And that is how you fight against the ideologies. That is how you protect your mind against the ideologies of the world that come to us through every form of media. Does that make sense? All right. Good. Now, that doesn't mean we don't sin. Just turn with me to Isaiah 59, because that's where that other quote is, because that's, and then we're going to go to our we're going to quickly end in with David. So it doesn't mean, I just don't want you to think that it doesn't mean that we don't own our sins, okay? Just because I'm telling you you're in the kingdom, it doesn't mean you've got license then to just go and do whatever you like and soak in all the rubbish from the world through every form, it's protecting you against that. It doesn't mean. So Isaiah 51 verse 2 says, Isaiah 59 verse 2 says, but your iniquities have separated between you and your God, and your sins have hid his face from you that he will not hear. Okay, so, and 1 John says that anybody that says that they don't sin is a liar. It makes God a liar. So we have to own our sins. Okay, we know that. Okay, but look what he says, even in verse 16 and 17. And he, that's God, saw that there was no man, and he wondered that there was no intercessor. Therefore his own arm brought salvation unto him. Okay, so God's arm brought salvation unto him, that's Christ. And his, that's God's righteousness, it sustained him, that is Christ. Okay, and what did he do? He, Christ, put on righteousness as a breastplate and a helmet of salvation on his head. And he put on garments of vengeance for clothing. He was clad with zeal as a cloak. Okay, so even Christ, even Jesus put on God's righteousness, and he upheld God's righteousness, knowing that God would do the humanly impossible. And what? He upheld God's righteousness. He went to the cross knowing that God would do the rest, the humanly impossible, and bring him out of the grave. Well done. I've got this. You do your little bit, I've got the rest. I'll bring you out of the grave. Based on my own righteousness, it's impossible that grave will hold you. Okay? So even Jesus put a helmet of salvation on. Salvation governed his thinking. Okay, now just come with me back to our reading, because I just think this is really fantastic. Okay, this is a young man. Okay, who, and like we said, young man who we can all relate to. All right, and what does he do? He goes and look at his mindset in this chapter. You all know the story, okay? So famous Sunday school story. You know the story. He's facing this giant of flesh. This giant of flesh has got a helmet of brass on his head, okay? And what does David say? He says, listen, this guy is no different to the lion, no different to the bear. He's defied the armies of Israel, okay? I'm not going out to fight flesh with flesh. I'm not taking your helmet of brass, Saul, okay? I'm going to go with just my sling. David's going out altogether unarmed in a conventional sense. He's going out with his God. He's going out with spiritual armor. He's going out with armor fit for purpose. Yeah? Because he says, did you notice what he said in verse 47? And all this assembly will know that Yahweh saves not with sword and spear, for the battle is Yahweh's, and he will give you into our hands. Right. God's got this. Salvation is always a work of God. Okay? God's got this, says David. And he believed it. and all the ideology that was coming from the Philistine army. It's okay. God's got this. All right? Does that make sense? I'm not going to be influenced by your Philistine ideology. And so look what he does. And you know how David, do you know this shows you the incredible mind of this young man? Because look what he does. And this absolutely proves the point. Do you know, he took Goliath's head and he cut it off. Did you notice what he did with it? What do you think? I mean, what do you think David would do with the head of Goliath when he cut it off?
Hold it up.
Yeah, hold it up. There we go. Yep. What do you do with it after that? He did. He did. Well done. Did you? So that's in verse. Verse 54. And David took the head of the Philistine and brought it to Jerusalem. Okay? And he put the armor in his tent. He took the head of that Philistine and he took it to Jerusalem. Why did he take it to Jerusalem? How did he know to take that head to Jerusalem? I mean, Jerusalem was a Canaanite city. David only takes Jerusalem to become his capital years later, when Job went up the gutter and got it. Yep, it was a Canaanite city. How did David know to take that head, because of what that head symbolized, the giant of flesh with all of its fleshly ideology? How did he know to cut that head off and take it to Jerusalem?
Where Christ was crucified.
Yeah, but that's years in the future. He didn't know that. How did he know to take it to Jerusalem? You're right in a sense. You're right. In fact, you're absolutely right. But how did he know that? God did do something there. Abraham and Isaac. So just a few years before, 400 and something years before, okay, God showed where he was going to work out salvation. And he said to Abraham, you go offer Isaac. Okay? And God showed Abraham how he was going to offer his own son for the salvation of the world on Mount Moriah. Yeah? And so when David cut that head off, he goes, that head represents what my Lord is going to crucify, because that head represents the ideology of the world and the thinking of the world, and that is what's going to get crushed by his heel. Okay? Bruised in his head. He's going to have his heel bruised when he crushes that head. Yeah? And it's going to happen where God said it was. So he took that head to Jerusalem. Because that's where God was going to work out salvation. The battle is Yahweh's. He knew the battle was God's. And so that's why you see young people, and you know that that's right, because every single gospel writer says they took him out to crucify him at Golgotha, which means a place on a skull. Because that's where that skull was. Yeah? Because that's where God worked out salvation. God's done it. Salvation's accomplished. It's as good as done. And you can't add to it, by the way. You can't add to that sacrifice. You just got to do your little bit, whatever God asked you to do, whether it's to build an ark, or to stand still, or to believe. Because he's appointed you, and he's chosen you,